Hello, first graders. It's Mrs. Smith, and I'm here today to read you a story called Rocket Writes a Story by Tad Hills. Make sure you can see the book. Everybody's sitting nicely. Can you see the book? Okay, here we go. Rocket loved books. He loved to read them to himself or to sit quietly by his teacher, the little bird, as she read them aloud. Rocket even liked the way books smelled. When he opened a new book, it smelled like a place he'd never been to, like a friend he'd never met. The little bird agreed. Books are inspiring. They make me sing. I'm wondering, does anybody feel that way when they read a book? Do they ever make you feel like singing? Rocket loved words too. After snack time, his teacher would say, "Rocket, why don't you use that nose of yours to sniff out some new words?" And off he'd go. He'd fetch some nice ones like buttercup and bug and feather and nest. "I'm looking for words," Rocket would announce to anyone who'd listen. Rocket always brought his words back to the classroom and wrote them down. The little yellow bird would help him spell the tricky ones, and then they'd hang them on their word tree. Sometimes the bird added her own words to the collection. "This one is small, but I promise it'll come in handy," she'd say. "Magnificent," chirped the little yellow bird once their tree was covered. "Now what shall we do with all these splendid words?" Rocket thought all afternoon. Then he had an idea. Is anybody wondering what his idea is? Tell me what your idea is. Those are some good ideas. We'll have to share those when we meet together on Zoom. Rocket left school that day with a very waggy tail. "I'm going to write a story," he declared to Fred and Emma. "My story would be an adventure about the great wide world," he told a butterfly. "I will use many words," he explained to Mr. Barker. "Hello up there," he called as he passed the tree where he had found the word nest. "I'm going to write a..." Did you guess it? He's going to write a what? Yeah, he's going to write a story. The next day, Rocket returned to his classroom. It was time to begin. He looked down at the blank page, and the blank page looked at him. But no story would come. At snack time, Rocket gave up. "I don't know what to write," he told his teacher. I felt that way before when I've tried to write. Have you? Maybe so. "Don't worry," the little yellow bird replied. "One of the hardest parts of writing is coming up with a good story. But it's one of the most fun, too. Perhaps you want to write about something you've seen." "A bug?" asked Rocket. "Yes," sang his teacher. "Stories need good characters. Or what about something that happened to you or something you really enjoy?" "My favorite stick," suggested Rocket. "Of course," said the bird. "Or you could write about something that inspires you." "Inspires me?" asked Rocket. "Yes, something that excites you," the little bird sang. Do you think that the little bird has some good ideas for what you could write a story about? It is good to write about something you know about. We'll have to find out. Rocket took a walk and looked for inspiration. He thought about friends he knew and places he'd been. He stuck his nose high in the air and sniffed the gentle breeze, and there it was, a delightful smell of pine needles and feathers. Inspiration! For the rest of the morning, he thought about feathers and pine needles and feathers. And that afternoon, he started to... What do you think he did? You're right, he started to write. In the evening, Rocket followed the beautiful smell until he found himself at a tree with a nest. "Hello again," he called into the branches. "Is anyone home?" He heard rustling from above, but no one answered. "I'm sorry to disturb you, but I must tell you that you smell nice." Very inspiring. May I ask who you are? Still nothing. Perhaps I'll come back at a more convenient time, he said, and trotted off. That night, as Rocket watched the stars, he thought about feathers and a nest in a pine tree, and he thought about his story and his collection of words. What's he gonna do? On his way to school the next day, Rocket was surprised by what he saw. A brand new word, he said, and it's already written down. It says, he tried to sound the word out. Owl? Came a quiet voice from the branches. It says owl. That's me. Thank you, Owl, Rocket called. I'm always looking for words, and this one's a beauty. Rocket ran all the way to his classroom. O-W-L, owl. Now there's a word you don't hear every day, chirped the little yellow bird. Only 3 letters, but what a word. It was a present, explained Rocket, and he added the new word to his story. I'm writing a story about you, Rocket announced proudly to the owl the next morning. The owl poked her head out of her nest, and for the first time, Rocket saw a friendly face. Her big round eyes blinked below feathery tufts. About me? She asked softly. Would you like to come down and hear it? Asked Rocket. Thank you, but I think I'll listen from my nest, the owl answered. So Rocket cleared his throat and began to read. Once there was an owl. She smelled like feathers and pine needles. She lived in a tree. The owl's wise widened. Is there more? Oh, there will be, said Rocket. What did you guys think of the beginning of his story? Did you like it? Thumbs up if you liked the beginning of his story. Each day, Rocket worked on his story. He wrote words down and crossed words out. And when things were going well, he wagged his tail. And when he didn't know to write, he growled. Sometimes he drew pictures for his story or took a walk in the meadow to look for inspiration. The little yellow bird encouraged him. Remember, stories take time, she'd say. She wanted to know more about the owl and ask Rocket questions. Why do you think the owl wouldn't come down? What color is her beak? What does she do every day? Rocket wanted to know more about the owl too. He visited her tree often and read her his story, which changed every day, and the owl was captivated. What do you think that means, the owl was captivated? What do you think the owl's doing when Rocket's reading to her? Do you think she's listening? Do you think she's listening really hard? What could captivated mean? Yeah? I'm thinking it could mean she's really, really paying attention. I think she really likes Rocket's story. And when Rocket stopped, she would always ask, then what happened? At last came the day when Rocket knew he was finished. What a